call the meeting to order. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming this evening. Mr. Harrington is excused. First item on the agenda. Please join me in a moment of silence. Oh, that's really good, isn't it? Moment of silence for Kevin Cushion, a former substitute employee in the North Syracuse Central School District. Thank you. Presentations. Assemblyman Al Stupy is with us this evening for the Reading Challenge presentation. Assemblyman Stupy, you want to come up, use this microphone?
We set them up right here.
Right there. Connection will catch up to you.
Okay, yeah. Well, welcome everybody, and first of all, I want to congratulate all the kids that did make it through all 40 days of reading in the summer, and especially want to thank their parents because I'm sure they helped remind everybody that they had to read every day. And we all know that reading is the most important class and course you can be good in, because without reading you can't do anything else. So thanks for promoting this at the school. And what we'll do now, and let me just say that we'll hand out certificates to anybody who's here tonight. Then after that's done, we'll go out in the hall and we'll take a big group picture, and then we can take individual pictures if you want to. Okay? All right. Chloe Barber. Is Chloe here? Yes. All right.
All right.
Sloan Bauer. You're welcome. Braylon Bradish. Who's very shy. You want me to come there? McKenna Bradish. You got to work on your sister. Rogan Cummings. Not here. Okay. Kaylee Curry. Not here. Isabella Dare. Caleb Gavin. Brady Gwilt. Joshua Damian Israel. William Dominic Kale. Thomas Coons. Lilith Lucido. Brody Mason. Isabel Normanley, I'm sorry. So probably Sophia Normanley's not here either, right? Okay. Anthony Valvo. And Rocco Valvo. Avery Witherall. And Cassidy Woodward. All right, well, congratulations to everybody, and we can go outside and take a picture now.
Thank you, Assemblyman Sturpey. Congratulations to everybody. Well done, well done.
Picking up my car.
Okay, next item is the independent auditor report. Mr. Keegan, Mike Lasan is here from Grossman St. Amor. So the floor is yours, sir.
All right, I only have a few quick slides. We met with the audit committee this past week, went through everything in great detail. So I'll keep it at a pretty high level, just discussing the audit results, where we ended up with everything. So really only 3 slides. From a big standpoint, we have what we call clean audit opinion on the financial statements. That's what we call unmodified opinion. That's the best type of consistent the past year, is very positive for the district. Other items like auditor's responsibilities, managed responsibilities, pretty similar to past years. Change in accounting policies. There's really no major changes in accounting policies. There's actually a new adoption of a new accounting standard called GASB 75 that occurred in this past year. From a standpoint of accounting, it actually added about $215 million of liabilities related to your post-employment benefits. That's just a new accounting standard that came to fruition this year. All school districts had adopted. So even though it's a change, it's a change every school district went through this past year. Don't get too nervous about the numbers from a standpoint. It's a non-cash item right now. It's a long-term liability. That's the only really significant change we had to adopt this past year, reflected in those financial statements. See no difficulties with management. The team worked extremely well. Don's team, Vince, the entire team with all the audits we had to do. Got through the audits, no problems. Control observations, recommendations. Gladly to say there's no material weaknesses in internal controls. What that is the best type of phase that we don't see any significant control weaknesses or problems that would get to a material weakness. Weakness in my mind means if you have controls that are so weak or problematic that any given day your numbers are off. You don't have any of that type of stuff or other type of deficiencies that note. We have a couple housekeeping items that we discussed with the audit committee. Best practices and things to tighten up a little bit, but nothing that would rise up to a significant level. Excellent there. That's the basic overall financial statements. We also do 2 other audits. One's called the single audit. That's called the unit guidance. That's actually the federal grant audit. Generally speaking, the federal grant audit is very compliance driven. We actually give you an opinion on the compliance, that you follow all the compliance regulations properly. Internal controls over those compliance, controls and process over compliance. You have no issues there, no question costs. Question costs would result in items being refunded back to the state. Question costs would be refunded. You had no issues on there. We audited what they call the child nutrition cluster this past year, which was about 30% of your federal expenditures. How we choose those programs is really based on the fact that we didn't audit it last year. It's a very formula-driven process. So generally speaking, to have a clean opinion, compliance opinion is excellent results there. The last extra classroom activities are also called ECA. We have what we call an opinion. It's a modified opinion for the cash receipts. That's the standard type of opinion that's basically given out to most school districts. What that really says is we've audited everything, but we're not 100% confident that all your cash receipts are included. We can audit what's there. It's the unknown stuff. Past years, we didn't find any control problems in the ECA. the type of work we do, very clean, you know. Biggest programs you see there really is the yearbook. When you go across the high school, the junior high school, and the middle schools, the yearbooks tend to be closer to 20 to 30% of all the ECA funds in each of the. Yearbook tends to be one of the largest programs. So big picture, everything went extremely well. Auditor, great job. The financial statements are every year getting longer. They're probably up to about 70 pages long. The uniform guidance adds another about 20 pages, and quite a bit of information that Don and his team has to oversee. Hats off to you for having,
Questions, comments?
I do. So this audit period is just for the last school year? What?
Yeah, it ends June 30th.
Okay. And so you're looking at capital improvement dates and paperwork and making sure we don't have any issues with that?
Clearly we are.
Okay, because we thought that was being done before when we had the issues that came back at us, so I'm asking the question.
Yes.
Okay.
We look at all the cost reports, and, timing and dating, and making sure that properly.
And all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted? Okay, good.
Recommendation we gave to the school district years ago is there's a supplemental schedule in the back of your financial statements that shows all the capital projects. It breaks it out by the state, project codes. A lot of school districts actually don't do that. They actually kind of combine them all. So if they have 10 projects, they just say, high school project, you don't know it. Yours actually break it out very specifically, so we can actually tie it right out to all the individual reports and stuff. So, that best practice, not, and it's actually required by the state of New York, but a lot of schools just don't follow it. But you get.
So that new change that we have to budget for? Yeah, so how is that going to affect our budget this year? Or
Our cash budget won't really change. It's that the financial statements now require us to fully present the long-term costs of all of our post-retirement health and retirement benefits. And those benefits, our statements, our general fund accounting, the statements we look at and prepare for the ST3, the annual report to the state, are basically cash basis, modified accrual basis. And now we're looking at the statements Mike's referring to in our annual financial statements are full accrual statements, and they consider all long-term liabilities.
Yeah, the financial statements really are more than one set of financial statements. They're actually 3 sets of financial statements within your own financial. One's called what they call entity-wide financials, which includes all that takes all the non-cash liabilities, says, here's how much we got to pay out for the next 5, 10, 25 years. There's actually fund financial statements in there, which go back right to your budget basis. That's a kind of cash-driven. When you do your budgets, your funds are exactly how you budget for, cash-driven. So that's next year's. And then there's actually fiduciary financial statements in there, which is, really don't have, you have oversight of those, but you really don't have, you can't use it for school resources and stuff, fiduciary type.
Yeah, kind of a long answer to your question. The fundamental economics of our situation hasn't changed, and therefore it won't change our budgeting necessarily. It's just that the economics of our situation are more clear because of the accounting requirements that now clarify them within the financial statements.
Okay, and so we don't have to have a separate reserve for that sort of.
Fortunately, the state of New York doesn't allow you to actually set aside a reserve for that.
Right.
Like, we a couple of years ago, remember we talked about pensions, and you participate in the state pension system, and you have that liability in your books, even though you don't have any control of the pension system. This liability is actually your plan, but the state does not allow you to set aside monies to fund this. State law, you can't even set up a reserve for it. Some school districts have a reserve, and comptroller at that time gave bad advice out, says, you can put reserves in there for these particular reasons, and they kind of retracted from that, says that's really not allowed to do that. So until the state can find a funding source, allow you to set away some monies for this, a lot of these liabilities are going to grow exponentially because every school district vote, they can't put aside dollars for these.
Can you just tell me about the the comment on the tracking of capital assets, was that?
There's a labeling, yeah, sometimes what happens, and there's a capital projects fund that, pretty much everything capital projects. Sometimes in the other funds, you do actually have items that meet capital asset back on your books and amortize it. So sometimes in the special aid funds or the general fund, things just got missed. It just wasn't looked at. Think about it, on a cash basis financials, it's cash. But then we have to put it back on the books, like a building or a vehicle, that's expense, but then you have to put it back in the books. And the capital projects fund ties right out. Everybody knows that. Once in a while, things in other funds, people don't pick up on it. But the system's going to be designed and turned on that you're going to be able to identify a purchase that will click on so that a capital asset will be automatically pulled out. And then
Our capitalization policy is anything that we purchase over $1,000 needs to be capitalized and depreciated. So what we end up doing at the end of the year is we go back and we catch some of those other assets that are in the other funds, and then we put them on the depreciation schedule.
I'll search for unrecorded capital assets. Basically, I look at repairs and maintenance and expenses and try. And I don't know why it wasn't put on properly expensed and bought for, follow all your procurement policies. It just was back on the books being depreciated over. Back to the different sets of financial statements within your.
Is $1,000 common?
Actually kind of low.
That's what I thought.
It's gotten, for federal requirements, they require minimally
Yeah.
$5,000.
Yeah.
So I recommend to a lot of folks, unless you really, I say $5,000 is usually the baseline, because for your size, your school districts, $5,000 is still kind of low. But if you buy
That's what I
anything with
thought.
federal dollars, you have to keep track of it.
One thing that's happened over the last several years is that so much of the technology equipment has gotten so cheap
Yeah.
that a lot of our assets that we were previously recording as assets have dropped.
Yeah.
And they're not even on, we
Right.
track them, but they're not part of our
Yeah.
capital assets anymore.
Yeah.
But this is a conversation we've had before about increasing that limit.
And I will look to my right to the policy chairman. Wonder if there's any, and you won't know the answer, Mary, but is there anything in our, is that specified by something in our policy? Or is that,
Specified.
it is?
Yeah, but it's
So
easy
may-
enough to change if
So
that's what.
maybe we need to have the policy committee look at that. Because I know 5,000 seems to be much more common. Okay.
Actually talked about it the last time it went through policy, so
We did.
I must have missed that one.
we need to relook at
Yeah.
it.
It's, I mean, that's, yeah.
5,000's even. You could probably go higher, but if you buy stuff with federal dollars,
Yeah,
you need to kind of
you've
carve
got to
out
record
stuff.
5 anyway, so yeah, that makes sense.
Record keeping and tracking of information is just really, what are you going to get for the benefit of $5,000?
Yeah.
Not really a lot.
Not much.
So I just have one more question. So when you were doing your audit, do you check for all the things that the state auditor would be checking for to make sure we're compliant with all the state?
Look for what we call direct and material compliance items, laws and regulations. A lot of unique regulations, specific. The comptroller looks at more transactional level, more about the laws and regulations. We look at client limit. A good example is the 4% limitation. The general fund. We want to make sure you do that properly. You're just a hair underneath that limitation. A lot of our school districts isn't. Right here, it says it's not in that budget. Name it. There's quite a bit of things we look at.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yeah, thank you, Mike, and
Thanks,
your
Mike.
crew. And again, commendations, Don and all you folks. Well done on everybody's part. Appreciate it very much. Thanks, Mike. Take care. Board of Education, committee reports, comments. Anybody with anything?
Report that the Legislative Committee did meet on September 26th last week. We had a good discussion. We have some new and different ideas, and it looks like we will be having 2 new senators after all,
Yeah.
one way or another. So we spoke about the next meeting, and we decided to have it after the election, so it'll be executive committee meeting that day, so we'll start time of 5 p.m.
Thank you. Anything else? Anybody? Nothing exciting or new, Mary?
Nothing new, but the policy next committee meeting is October 29th.
Superintendent's comments.
Just a couple of things. I know that our guests that were honored this evening all cleared out of here, but I do want to congratulate them again on the record, and certainly what Assemblyman Sturpey said in terms of reading being the foundation for everything. That is something that we stress day in and day out in our district, and so very pleased that so many of our young students did read this summer. On another note, I just want to mention I'm very much looking forward to tomorrow. I have my first meeting of the school year, Superintendent's Student Advisory Council, and I'm going to be with them to kind of pick their brains and get their input for the upcoming Superintendent's Conference Day on November 6th. They will be invited there and help out, as well as I'm looking to get them to participate and really give me some food for thought in terms of my message to staff that day. So looking forward to that.
Thank you, Annette. Routine action items. Excuse me. 5A, consideration of approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of September 24. B, consideration of classification and school placement of disabled students certified by the District Committee on Special Education. C, consideration of classification and placement of preschool disabled students certified by the District Committee on Preschool Education. D, consideration of classification and placement of students in home instruction programs as recommended by the Home Instruction Review Committee. And E, consideration of contract awards is a lengthy spreadsheet showing the low bidders, and the recommended action is to award a contract to Eagle Associates in the amount of $24,317 as the lowest responsible bidder, meeting specifications for bleachers and installation at Gillette Road Complex. The award of contract to Pioneer Masonry in the amount of $22,950 as the lowest responsible bidder, meeting the specifications to remove the asphalt pads and install concrete pads at Gillette Road Complex. And the award contract to Rabbit Laser USA in the amount of $11,120 as the lowest responsible bidder, meeting the specifications to purchase the laser cutting and graving machine. I will entertain a motion to approve 5A, B, C, D, and E as a group. Let's see, I'll get Ms. McDonald on the record this time, Terry. Okay? A second, Ms. Scanlon. All in favor? There we go. Discussion, action item 6A, acceptance of the report of the independent auditor. I'll accept a motion to accept the audit report. Mr. D'Onofrio, we'll go with Ms. Kruger this time. All in favor? There we go. We have some creation of positions. Recommendation to create 1.0 FTE ENL teacher, 0.5 Allen Road and 0.5 Cicero Elementary. C, recommendation to create 1.0 FTE school information officer. D, recommendation to create per diem substitute bus mechanic position. E, recommendation to create 1.0 FTE internship position at Cicero North Syracuse High School. So I'll entertain a motion to approve 6, B, C, D, and E as a group, although we have questions.
Sure. We have one, Lori Cook, but she's split between BOCES and us. She's only been a half-time position. And so the recommendation to create this position is for Lori to come over on what's known as a civil service transfer, full-time with our district.
Any other questions? Okay, then the motion for 6, B, C, D, and E as a group. Mr. Fafalia, back to Ms. McDonald. There we go. All in favor? Okay. Missing George over here. I can't pick out him. 6F is the adoption of the 2019-20 budget process timeline and budget calendar. Don, any comments on this?
Like I can walk them through it. It's the same process. We've got, I think, we have kind of a tried and true process. It's 4 pages, as you can see from the attachment, 4 pages of detailed actions that start with the filing of the ST3, our state report, your acceptance of the audit, which you've done tonight, and your approval of the calendar. We spend, I think one thing that's important to note with the budget process is that we conclude that process in April, and the voters vote on it in May. So one of the things we do as Cabinet right about now, is after the audit's done, is we say, okay, how did the 17-18 school year actually end? What were our actual expenses? And we compare that to the budget that you folks and the voters approved, so we can understand, you know, where are we right at the beginning of the year with maybe estimates we made that might not have been quite as good as they could have been, and we factor that into our discussions. And so we spend a lot of time early on in the process looking at how our actual results trended against what we budgeted to kind of test our budgeting process. One of the cornerstones of our process is our budget board subcommittee, and that's obviously throughout the calendar we have meetings noted for that. We have budget meetings with each of our directors and folks that supervise academic areas so that we can understand their needs for next year. And I think one of the things that Annette has done a great job with her leadership is we've really, our budget process is very much aligned with the district's mission, vision, and goals. And so unless you've got any questions from looking at the detail, I think I'll just ask for your approval.
I'm just looking forward to it again so much. Yeah.
Thank
We
you.
all are,
And I will
okay.
point out the budget vote date is late this year. You might notice that we're looking at a budget vote on May 21st.
But that's as late as it can be. Last year in May was the earliest. Now it flips to the latest. Yeah, gives us more time.
We get an extra couple weeks of budget season.
Oh boy, man, I just love it. Yeah, you can have an extra presentation from Don. Okay. G is the designated gift toward the scoreboard at the Fragment Stadium, and this is Aspen Athletic Club, $3,000, and we thank them for that. Non-marketable equipment. I think most people would say junk, but what? Bookcase and work table and some other stuff. I'll take a motion then to approve 6F, G, and H as a group. Mr. Thorne, Mr. D'Onofrio, all in favor. Retirements. I'm going to mispronounce the last name unless Don helps me out. Dave, H-O-U-D-E. Howd, thank you. David Howd, bus driver, 20 years of service. And we wish him well in retirement, long and happy in retirement. 7A, instructional personnel. 7B, support staff personnel. Any questions, need for discussion? Motion to approve A and B. Ms. Kruger, Mr. Maurizio, all in favor. Executive session motion. Motion to move into executive session for the purpose of receiving an update on negotiations with the North Syracuse Education Association and the per diem substitute teacher bargaining units, to review one legal matter relative to litigation, and to review the employment history of one individual with no action to follow. Motion to enter to executive session. Ms. Scanlon, Ms. Kruger, all in favor. Off we go at 7:28.